What's up, everyone? Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. You get all four of us on the screen today at one time. It's been hard for us to get our schedules. We all have our own lives. Then we also have natural disasters going on, jobs, children. It's a lot. But for this Tuesday, we're all here together. We're so excited to. What'd you say, Carrie?
From natural disasters to jobs. I'm like, oh, yes.
We can group those together. Actually, for some of us. How is everybody's week been?
Number. Candy and I are the safe ones there.
Yes.
So how's everybody's week going?
Pretty solid. How about yours?
It's been going well. I'll say on the fan side of things, football side, I'm really only celebrating the Longhorns right now. The Cowboys are just giving me grief. Here I was thinking Sunday that I was not going to have to be stressed out about what are the Cowboys going to do or not going to do. They don't play today. We already won for the week. No big deal. And then I get an alert from ESPN and DeMarcus Lawrence is out for 4 to 8 weeks and Micah Parsons is out for 2 to 3. And then they put D-Law on the IR today, which, 4 to 8 weeks, yeah, you're going to go on the IR. So still very, very stressed. And the whole time, Washington, the Commanders, our former coach, some of our former staff just doing awesome over there. So, and leading our division. So that is, on the fan side, not the best. The Rangers, they ended their season. No more reigning defending because the playoffs start and you're not defending a thing. But on the bright side, basketball starts very, very soon.
How do you really feel? Queen of hoops. Queen of hoops.
Absolutely. Well, all right. I guess we will go ahead and jump into our topics tonight. Carrie's going to be talking to us about the Wild Wild West that is NIL now.
Yes. When we first started talking about it and we're looking into that, to the NIL, 2 years ago when we first started our podcast, we thought, well, this is going to be interesting, but I wonder how it'll play out in the screen. I wonder what things, we had a lot of questions. Well, some of our concerns, if I remember correctly, was who's going to be governing it? How is it going to be? How is it going to be kept? Who's going to monitor what's going on? As it turns out, really no one. Literally the wild, wild west out here, and we're starting to see fallout. It comes from UNLV's quarterback who was promised that if he would transfer when the season over, he would be given $100,000 if he would transfer to the Rebels from Holy Cross last winter, and he has not received any of the money. And I believe that someone else on that team is in the same boat, so they jumped ship. They're sitting out. I think I saw there was somebody, at least one more, that is taking this. This weekend, listening to Coach Saban, I really got into. I wasn't sure if I liked him or not. It's kind of a gray area for me. But I enjoy what he brings to, like the weekend and the commentator and that. He said one of the things that he brought about was there needs to be oversight, and then NIL is name, image, likeness, and that is designed to use yourself to promote a brand, not a pay-to-play. What is currently being done is more a pay-to-play. And he said, that he's always been on the side where he felt that the players, if the schools are earning money because they're playing the ball, whatever sport it is, they should get some of the money coming from the revenue coming in. And then leave NIL to be specifically, strictly for using your name, your image, your likeness to promote a brand, which is really, I mean, in essence, that's what it was supposed to be, but it's been taken way out. And we're seeing schools be in Tennessee. I heard that University of Tennessee is going to add a fee to their seats that helps to get more revenue for the NIL fund. And I'm like, that's pay to play. That's not name, image, likeness.
Well, my thing on that, Carrie, is so now the NCAA has to figure out a way to make up for the money that they're losing. Like, they haven't been making money off of these athletes for 100 years.
They were pulling people under the table. We know this. There was
right. And so that was what the portal and NIL. Right. Well, yeah, they were. The boosters were. I mean, it wasn't specifically. It was they added the criminal element of it by paying them under the table, and it wasn't legal.
What I was saying is the schools were not, but boosters were.
I mean, but in a roundabout way.
Yeah, in a roundabout way. Yeah, absolutely.
In a roundabout way, they were, and so that's what brought. Right. And so that's what brought the criminal element of it. Of course, because there are extreme instances like Baylor University, whenever their basketball star under Coach Bliss was murdered because the one of the boosters gave him a Tahoe and he was jealous. Like, there are extreme situations that are involved when it comes to not paying these players. And I think what I had to do, and yes, college sports is changing right in front of us, and it's not going to look the same ever again. I think you have to look at it as semi-professional, because that's what they are. And I do believe that they should have some type of revenue share, because the NCAA has been getting rich for years and years and years and years off these athletes. And it's not that they didn't get anything in return, because yes, you did get a scholarship. I think this is where we start to define the difference between the needs of scholarships of players who actually need a scholarship, because there are plenty of people that don't financially need a scholarship. And especially if you're, for example, Angel Reese, and you have tons of NIL money, you don't also, in addition, need a scholarship for that. So I think this is where we need to see some differentials between the needs of scholarships and NIL and transfer and all of that. And so that's my personal take on it.
And I agree with that. I think this could be a beautiful thing. And the fact that you get the kids that would not have anything, a chance to get something. The other thing that I'm concerned about is without any of the governing bodies, any of this, we know that rookies coming into the NFL go through classes and training to help with their money and such. There are people out there that help with their money. We are giving these kids that don't have anything, that are sometimes leaving a situation where they didn't know where their meals were coming from, type things, and we're giving them lots of money. And do they have any, I don't even know if there's anything in support out there for these kids that have gone from nothing to having something. And I can speak from personal experience. When you have an amount of money put in to your possession that doesn't necessarily have, it has to go here, it has to go here, or you can just start chipping away at that money. And you're like, well, that won't make a big deal. That won't make a big deal. That won't make a big deal. But those all little, it won't make a big deal, does make a big deal. So, there's so many things that I think that we need to have people that, I just think that a governing body has to step up. I think the NCAA has to come up with this. I think that they're trying to keep the government out. I mean, I remember this being taken in all, all the hearings and such. There's got to be some control, because we're throwing lots and lots of money out there at kids that may not, that can be life changing and can be lost in a year.
I have.
I think
some stuff to add,
the only
but
thing that
wanna
I
make
would
sure
change on
Candy
that
gets-
is, what were you saying? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I was just gonna say I have some stuff to add too, but I wanted to make sure Candy got her 2 cents in because I tend to talk over Candy a lot.
It's okay. Hi, Megan, you're going to respond.
The only thing that I would change about that, Carrie, as far as the governing body, I don't want it to come from the NCAA. I don't trust the NCAA one bit. And so I think it has to come from an outside governing body to keep the NCAA and the athletes in check. So I think it has to come from an outside entity.
So I will say this. When I was at ACC kickoff day, this was a hot topic actually. And I'm going to give some more insight too in a second. From even Coach Shearer of Duke's basketball team from last year. But at tip-off. But at kickoff, they were talking about it and they were saying that's why, like right now, it's each state. But then the lines get blurry in my mind. Because you have a transfer student, like the student from UNLV, who was promised $100,000. UNLV, not a big football program, $100,000, decent amount of money, especially for a kid that doesn't have a lot, probably not going to go into the NFL. And it affords him the opportunity to bring his family to the games, right? So we, I like that team.
Hi, Fernando.
But they were saying that right now it's state, but they really want Congress to intervene. I don't want Congress to intervene. I agree. I think it needs to be a completely separate entity. But right now, what's really murking up the waters is the fact that there are too many agents involved. We have high school students with agents. We have junior high school students with agents. That's too young to be getting that kind of money. I'm sorry, unless you were born well-to-do and your parents are teaching you financial savviness. As a banker, I could come up with a lot more better words, but Candy, correct me. But the plus side of NIL, and I want to kind of go into a little bit of college football too, is the fact that it affords these kids that opportunity to bring their parents to every game. And that's important because you need that family support. We have all been in athletics. And Katie, I like your haircut. It took a minute, but I like it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Sorry. But we need to get, so that's why, but when you're doing state, what happens when you're that transfer kid from UNLV, the quarterback, who's from another state? So where does Texas go? Vegas or Texas? Or both? Because then that's not fair to that kid because they're taking 40%, right? Uncle Sam's got to get their money.
Right.
Even though like our billionaires are only paying like less than $1,000 a year, right? So
Well, that's why the individual schools now are also taxing the NIL money. They want a percentage of whatever you're getting too. And
Right.
so like it's ever changing at this moment. And I don't know that we're not going to see the final product for probably 10, 12 years of where they've actually figured out and gotten the kinks worked out of it. So while we criticize now, yes, but understand that like these changes started 3 years ago is when the portal hit. It's an ongoing process, and it's probably not going to be until like 2035 or 2040 when we actually see a system that actually works.
it'll be too crop by then. They need to act fast. And honestly, maybe that's a question we could ask next week because
yeah.
But also, like Coach Dabo Swaney of Clemson gets a lot of heat because he doesn't really use or utilize the portal. He's getting a lot of heat, and I mean,
He is.
right side, left side. Like I see both sides of this coin because Coach Swaney loves the culture he's built at Clemson. Clemson does pay their players. They're part of NIL. They're just not transferring in and out. But he wants that legacy. That's why you're getting, that's why we had that. Dom's watching. Dom, come on, let me hear your Clemson rants. But but that's just where we are. And it's such, I think, and I agree with you, Fernando. Yes, the parents do need help starting middle school, but I personally firmly believe that's where websites who can take you to fiduciaries, because fiduciaries are very important with this type of money. So if you're a student athlete making NIL money, if you want PME, I'll help you find a really good fiduciary. You'll get a monthly income. But go to online hands online banking or something like that. I'll find the link, put it on our website that Wells Fargo has. I'm sure Candy has one too. It's a community outsource. You don't have to be a Wells Fargo member, but it's great to teach you about these things. But you need to take the finance classes. Go to your local school, get the personal finance.
I just think you have to start looking at college level, NCAA level as semi-pro. You have to look at it that way. That's what it is now. And so your amateurs are going to be the ones that, outside of gymnastics and other areas where you're competing at 14 and 15 years old on a professional level. And that's not the norm for most sports. I think that's where you look like those are your amateurs. So junior high and high school now are your amateur athletes. That it is what it is, because look at Alabama. Right. They got a 17-year-old on their football team. But he's putting in the work. Doesn't he deserve to get paid the same way others are getting paid? Yes, of course he does.
But that much money? I feel like
he earns it. Yeah, if he earns it, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You have to earn it. But like, if you're just like, here you go. Like Drake May reportedly got offered. Oh, of course they are. And I don't think Dabo Swinney is. I don't think Coach Mac Brown is. I don't think most college coaches are. Do I think Coach Prime is? Kind of, but not on a money side. Because he doesn't need the money. That's just my personal opinion. He likes to gloat. But
I don't have a problem with the coaches getting a percentage of stuff either. My problem is the NCAA taking their percentage. They haven't been taking it all for years and years and years. That's my problem with it, is the NCAA.
We already know that the NCAA, and I did say that to have them, but we already know that they're not legitimately above the board, because look at things that have not been brought to light until, they just have the shady used car salesman image, because they've done it for so long that we have no reason to give them trust.
So let me ask a question, ladies. Do we want to do an NCAA NIL recap again, like maybe next Tuesday night, so we can get onto the other topics? Because this is a conversation we've had in the past, and we've all kind of sort of
it's ongoing. But yeah, let's go ahead and slide over to our next topic. Candy's going to talk to us a little bit about postseason MLB.
Yes. So yesterday was the end of the regular season with a doubleheader, because the Mets were playing the Braves, and it was a matter of who won yesterday. The Mets took I believe the first game, and so that meant the Mets were automatically in. And then the second game came down to either the Mets or the Braves winning. And depending on how that went, if the Braves won, the Braves were in. If the Braves lost and the Mets won again, then Arizona would have been in. So it came really down to they had to play those last two, that doubleheader.
Well, it was if Atlanta would have swept, Arizona also would have been in. So it was just if they split, then Arizona was out. And so, of course, I was rooting for at least one team to actually win both games. I didn't care who it was, because, I'm lucky enough that I'm able to work for the Diamondbacks AA affiliate. So I was definitely cheering for the guys, because I've been able to cover them and work with them before. They've been in Amarillo. However, their season was over yesterday. They went on a weird slide since All-Star break, whereas clearly the other teams were on the uptrend, especially the Padres.
So like you said, they did split. So Arizona was out. So right now, currently, the Mets drew the Milwaukee Brewers. They are actually beating them it's in the seventh inning. The Mets are winning right now, 8-4. The team that's, I have to say, that has been hot is the Detroit Tigers. They have really
Agreed.
sprung into action. Like nobody picked them even at the All-Star game. But ever since
They
then,
are the Rangers last year. It's when they hit the trade deadline and they like, hey, we're going to keep Skew Ball. Whereas like the Rangers, they made a bunch of trades and moves at the trade deadline. But it's like as soon as trade deadline hit, they were all in, and I think they got a chance to make the series. Or I hope
they do. They beat the Astros today 3-1. The Braves play the Padres yet tonight, and Kansas City took care of Baltimore today. So 1-0.
And that was surprising to me. We actually have an 806 connection with the Baltimore, the Orioles. Kerstad is from Amarillo. He's a Randall High graduate, so I like to root for him because there's a local kid that's playing for him. But side note, Kerstad. And then there's a couple of other ones, and there's 4 kids. They're all the same age. They all have the same haircut, same color. They all look the exact same, but they're all different players.
Now, the teams that had byes the first round are the Guardians, the LA Dodgers, the New York Yankees, and the Philadelphia Phillies. So those are the ones that are awaiting these series to be. And it's a 3 out of 5 series. So that's what they're playing right now. So we'll see. Wait, I take that back. It's 2 out of 3.
The wild card round is the 5 or the 3. I'm sorry, the 3.
Yep.
Never ever get used to the Guardians. Just putting that out there.
Oh no, agree. And in fact, I have a good friend that is from that area, and he in fact gave up on the team and became a Cubs fan because he said he just cannot call them Guardians.
That's right. I'm just saying it's an election year and we in the playoffs, so I'm good with it.
But I also
didn't I have a joke, Candy? I don't know if I've ever told you this or any of you ladies, that when the Cubs won the World Series, we went into a parallel universe.
There was a glitch.
Yeah, there was a glitch. Something happened.
That's funny.
That explains a whole lot.
So, Candy, who do you think is going to make the series?
You know, the Tigers do have a shot because the Tigers have been hot lately. I don't know that whoever. I think the Phillies are going to take out whoever because I think the Phillies have just been hot. And I know that now. I don't know.
And it's a contract year for Bryce Harper. Also, I want to throw that out there. I love baseball. I'm so sad my team's not in it right now because
Sorry, I wasn't trying to be sorry. I don't know what I was trying to do there, sir. I'll shut up. Sorry.
It's been a while since we've got all 4 on here,
Right. I don't know in the National League, it is hard to pick against the Dodgers. However, they have done this before. They have poured a ton of money into their roster and have gotten knocked out in the first or second round in the last few years. So obviously there's a ton of pressure on them to perform this year. I think obviously there's a lot of pressure on Philly too. Hey Key, what's up? I think there's pressure on them to perform too because they have several players that are going to be looking to be unrestricted free agents. And so do you want to keep them around? Obviously with the Rangers, we heard Nathan Eovaldi talking about this probably was his last game with the Rangers, and that his comment was that it's a business decision, and it is, especially in baseball. Players get moved around a lot, so I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of pressure on Philadelphia to win now or blow it up.
I should give kudos to Luis Arias. He won his 3rd batting championship in a row. So that's pretty. I mean, he didn't have the best average, I would say, as opposed to years past. But you have to give him credit because winning the batting championship 3 years in a row consecutively, that doesn't happen very often. You don't hear about that. I would love to see my Brewers in there. But nobody picked them, and they're like the little engine that made it this far.
So that's why today's win, or if you guys win, I think that's surprising. I have had my eye on you guys all season long, and I know your division is very competitive, especially this season. They were real competitive. And then also, we saw a really amazing regular season for Shohei Ohtani. He just an incredible finish to the season for him. I think 59 stolen bases, like 54 hits, 310, I think was his batting average, or 320, something like that. Like just an incredible regular season for him. So regardless of whether you like the Dodgers or not, I think if you love baseball, you love watching this kid play. And he's only playing one side of the ball. Like he's only played one side of the ball. Can you imagine if he was pitching to like the type of stat lines that he would be putting up? We got some comments. Y'all love baseball.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can go backwards,
sorry guys.
If I can go back to Luis Arias, he did it for 3 different teams. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. He played for 3 different teams each of the seasons. So that's kind of crazy too when you think about it.
Right.
But
absolutely. Well, I think it'll be a really interesting playoffs. I think they do best of the 3-game series out of the wild card, and then I think the rest are best of 7. So it's going to be a long playoffs. We know how it is with the MLB. Their regular season is long as hell. So this little mini season, the playoffs has started today. Very excited about that. Let's slide over to our next topic, and obviously, we are a show that started because we wanted to talk about some of the heavy topics. And so these next 2 are pretty heavy. Jen, let's talk about some of the people we lost this week.
So we've actually lost quite a few, including actors. But in the sports world, we did lose Big Red from Carrie's team, the Cincinnati Reds. We've obviously lost Pete Rose, who just honestly he had a phenomenal career. He started in 63, ended in 86. I remember, and I wanted to cover this because I actually remember when Pete Rose got busted for gambling against himself. Like, I mean,
well, not against, but for.
But right. But he
against his team.
But he and he was banned from the Hall of Fame. And if anybody ever deserved to be in there, it was Pete Rose. But gambling, if you know somebody with an addiction, and it doesn't matter the addiction just gets to you. And it
I still think he needs to be in I think he's done his time. I think that without him in Cooperstown is a disgrace to the game.
Say that again.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. His jerseys, his records that he hit, those are in Cooperstown, but he's not officially in Cooperstown.
Correct.
Himself. So his bust is not there, but some of his records are already in Cooperstown. But I agree. But I also understand the stance that baseball took because gambling was such an issue. And that's really where the gambling issue started, was in baseball. And so I understand the stance somewhat, but I think I agree with you, Carrie. Like he had done his time. Like I think within the last 5 years that they probably could have put him in and what it would have meant. Now you may not have necessarily had him at the ceremony, maybe not, because does it make a mockery of the lifetime ban thing? Maybe, because he was known to sign his signature, his autograph. I'm sorry that I bet against baseball. So he was still making money off of it, and so I don't know if you would have invited him to the ceremony, but I think you should have inducted him.
Well, yeah. And that's why in the recent years, it's come back up because he had done his time. And there was a big push, especially when certain other people were inducted into the Hall of Fame for similar or, just as bad.
Steroids.
Yeah. And honestly, gambling, you're hurting yourself.
I take gambling and steroids as the same level of cheating, in my opinion.
I can go with that.
When you have that addiction, And it doesn't matter what that addiction is. It takes over your right mind. It truly does. So if you have a gambling addiction, if you have a drinking problem, if you have a drug problem, get help. Don't let your brain shrink because of this. Like, it sucks. So don't be that narcissistic asshole. Sorry for cussing. Because he was amazing, and
congratulations to the Lions last night.
his legacy is such as that, with such an amazing player who's still spoken of so highly, and what a legacy. And it's also this. And Candy, I will finish up real fast. And then we also lost Dikembe Mutombo. And he passed away of brain cancer, and he just ended his career. Was I wrong? Hello, Jeremy.
No. That was what he used to do. Whenever he would block somebody, he'd be like,
right,
no, you got to get it out of there.
But it was really sad. His family was around him. He was right down the road from me. He never won a championship. However, he was MVP for 4 years. He was also defensive player several years. He had an illustrious career. So rest in peace. And thank you for the fun times watching you. I know not only your basketball family is missing you, but your real family.
Absolutely. All right, Candy. I know you got to cut out.
I'm sorry. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye, Candy.
I don't know if you saw what Mutombo's son, the press release he led, and I read that, and I'm like, my heart was breaking and also rejoicing at the same time, because if you haven't read that, search it out. It is one of those. It will give you the right feel.
I haven't read it, actually, so I'm definitely going to go look that up. Jen, if you need to go too, you can go ahead and go. I'm just going to cover a little bit of basketball before we jump
ladies.
No,
I'm
it's
so
okay.
sorry.
No problem.
And I'm just going to put this out here. I want to start the NBA carousel again, Megan, because I kind of miss talking Boston Celtics. So let's do it. I'll leave it. Okay?
You're more than welcome to come on the sip off if you want and talk the Celtics.
I know. I can do that too. As long as Don's not there telling me Miss Brady Bunch. Yeah, Dom, I remember you. Bye, girls. Love y'all.
Bye. All right, so speaking of the Celtics, let's talk a little bit of basketball, because we've got the NBA that's going to be starting their preseason coming up in a couple of days. On the 4th is when preseason starts, and then regular season will be starting on the 24th, I believe. Also, we got NCAA season about to kick off as well. I think we've got 30 practices until the regular season starts. Very excited for that. But let's talk a little bit about what's gone on in the off season for the NBA, because this was a very active free agency period. So the Hawks, will start with Atlanta. They were able to acquire Larry Nance Jr. from the Pelicans, Cody Zeller from the Pelicans. They did have some key departures, though. Sadiq Bey is gone. AJ Griffin is gone. DeJounte Murray went to the Pelicans. So I expect Atlanta to look quite different. Now, moving on to the Celtics, they were able to re-sign Hauser and Cornette, Jason Tatum, Tillman, White, extensive extensions there. And then they also had an addition with Lonnie Walker, former Spur. I think he's a great point guard, very serviceable. Played with Derek White there in San Antonio. So I think that he'll be a good fit there in Boston. Then we have Brooklyn. Hey, foreheads. I see you, Anthony. Talking about my forehead. Now with Brooklyn, they were able to re-sign Nick Claxton, Keon Johnson, and Trendon Watford. Their additions, they were able to add Bogdanovich from the Knicks, Killian Hayes for a 1-year deal, Shake Milton, and then Zaire Williams. Now, some key departures that Brooklyn had was Bates Diop, Mikal Bridges, that was a huge one. And then obviously we talked about Lonnie Walker also. Fernando, yes, you can definitely follow us. If you search me on Twitter, I'm Queen of Hoop. What is yours, Carrie? Chiefs Chick?
Chief Chicks 87, but I'll be really honest, that would be a very boring follow. So please understand.
Or you can follow us on Facebook as well. So feel free to do that also. Let's see. Now, the Hornets, they were able to re-sign Bridges, and then they had Seth Curry returning as well. Their additions, they added Taj Gibson, Josh Green, and Anton Watson. Key departures, Davis Bertans, Reggie Jackson, and then JT Thor. I don't expect anything out of Charlotte this year. I think they'll look the exact same that they've been looking for 2 decades. Then we got the Chicago Bulls. You got Patrick Williams returning. He was signed a 5-year deal. And then also, we're going to see Lonzo Ball on the court again. It has been 2.5 seasons since we've seen him. So excited that he's healthy and that he's able to come back. And then they were able to add Josh Giddey and Jalen Smith and then Chris Durante. Key departures, though, they lost Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Javonte Green, and then Andre Drummond. Sliding over to the Cavs, they re-signed Jarrett Allen, Okoro, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Tristan Thompson. No key departures. So I expect Cleveland to double down. They got a coach that I think is going to make a difference there also. So we shall see. Dallas is a team that's going to look different as well. They added Klay Thompson, Naj Marshall, Quentin Grimes, which I think is a really underrated pickup for them. And then they re-signed Spencer Dinwiddie again. They also re-signed one of the Morris brothers. Not impressed with that pickup. And then Brandon Williams. Key departures for them, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., who will now be playing for the Pistons, and then Derek Jones Jr. So interested to see what Klay looks like with that mix there in Dallas.
It was definitely something I was going to think. I'm like, no, I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, that would be an interesting.
I think I would love to see Klay get back to being a defensive player. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of pressure on him to be the scorer that Golden State expected him to be. Generally, you got Kyrie and Luka that have that figured out. He can go into that situation and put up 10 to 15. But if he can focus on the defensive end again, because he was an elite defender before the injuries. Now he may not be able to get to that physical level ever again because of the injuries, but I would like to see him be able to dedicate some time to that. And I think Dallas gives him that time, because I was at the point like probably time to retire. Then when I heard he was going to Dallas, I was like, oh, well, maybe that will work. So I think that that's probably the right situation to try it out. And if it doesn't work here, it's time to hang it up, Klay. So, I mean, just the injuries are what they are.
And you get to
all right.
You just don't heal as well. You just don't heal the same.
Right.
I mean,
no, and I don't know that he's going to be that type of defender, because he was one of the best defenders we ever saw, in addition to being one of the best 3-point shooters that we've also seen. So I think this takes the pressure off of him. Right. Currently, what we saw out of him last year, he was not playing defense at all, hardly at all, because he didn't trust his body. So if you can give him some time to maybe be able to trust his body again, maybe he will be able, if he can return to half his form on the defensive end of the court, I would be satisfied for that for his last 3 to 4 years of his career. All right, now sliding over to the Nuggets, they were able to re-sign DeAndre Jordan and Jamal Murray. They added Sark, and then they also added Westbrook, which they have said a couple of times that they might start him. I think that's the wrong decision. I think that he looks amazing coming off the bench, and that also takes the pressure off of him as well. So I would love to see him come off the bench. Key departures, though, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is gone, and then Reggie Jackson is also gone. Sliding over to the Pistons, Cade signed a 5-year extension with them, and then Fonticello as well. Additions, they added Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Wendell Moore Jr., and Paul Reed. Key departures, Taj Gibson, Quentin Grimes, talked about that, and then James Wiseman also. Now sliding over to the Warriors, it's going to be their first time that we've seen their core without Klay Thompson, so I think that's going to look strange. Steph Curry did sign an extension, but it was only a 1-year extension, so writing could possibly be on the wall between Steph and Golden State. Their key additions, they added Kyle Anderson from the Timberwolves. I think that's a really underrated pickup for them. Buddy Hield also, I think that's a really good pickup for them. Then DeAnthony Melton, and then Lindy Waters the third. Key departures, Chris Paul. I don't think that is a loss for them. Sark he's gone to the Nuggets. I don't know. I think that he's a great player. I don't know that he fit with Golden State, so I don't know that that's necessarily a loss to them. Klay Thompson not being there is going to be huge. The Houston Rockets were able to re-sign Aaron Holiday and Nate Williams, and then their additions, they added AJ Griffin. They had no key departures. Anthony, I also agree. I think Kyrie finally looks happy in his situation, and I think that reflects on the court. You don't see him and Luka fighting over who should have the shot. They work so well together, and I didn't know if it would work, but it looks great. And then Russ wants to get back to triple-double status. I think he can do triple-double status from the bench. He can be Manu. He can be the best sixth man out there because you got somebody on your bench that could put up a triple-double. So I still want to keep him in that. It's time. That's where his role is now. So just my personal opinion on that. Then with the Indiana Pacers, they were able to re-sign James Johnson, TJ McConnell, Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, and then Obi Toppin as well. There was some talks that maybe Indiana overpaid Obi Toppin, but I personally really like that announcement. They did add James Wiseman, and then a key departure was Jalen Smith, who signed with the Bulls. Now, Anthony, getting to your Clippers, you guys are able to re-sign Harden and Zubac. I really like Zubac. I think he's a really underrated center. So I think that's something that is missing somewhat in today's NBA. So you hold on to the one that you got, even if he's not super flashy. Then their additions, they added Mo Bamba. I think that's a great bench player. Batum, also a great bench player. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., and Kevin Porter Jr. Key departures, Paul George, who went to the Sixers. Mason Plumlee. I can't believe that there's a Plumlee in the league still, but there he is. Daniel Theis, and then Russell Westbrook also. Now sliding over to the Lakers. They were able to re-sign Max Christie and LeBron James. Not a lot to talk about on additions. A couple of departures. Spencer Dinwiddie is gone. Taurean Prince is gone. And obviously we'll see how they're going to work in Bronny they're going to start him in the G League. And when will he be coming up to the Lakers? Because I guarantee once they hit the Christmas Day game or getting closer to All-Star break, I don't expect Bronny to be in. I see your kitty.
Yes. He's over here wanting some more.
That's funny. All right, now with the Grizzlies. They were able to re-sign Luke Kennard. Not a ton of additions either. As we know, they waived Derrick Rose. And then Zaire Williams also left. Now going to Miami, they were able to re-sign Bam for 3 years, Thomas Bryant for a year, Highsmith for 2 years, Kevin Love for another 2 years. I can't believe Kevin Love is still in the league. And then they also added Alec Burks, who is underrated as well. A couple of key departures for them. Jamal Cain, Caleb Martin, that's going to be a huge hit for them. Patty Mills, and then Orlando Robinson. Sliding over to the Bucks, they re-signed nobody. Their additions, they added Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., which I think is huge for the Bucks. I think we'll see a little more for them to figure out at the point guard, shooting guard. I think him and Dame together will be really great. They've played together before in Portland, so this will be them reuniting. And then Delon Wright as well. A couple of key departures, though. Patrick Beverly is gone. He will no longer be playing in the NBA. And then Malik Beasley. Do I like silk material? I'm not sure who you are, honey, or what that means. Big Cat to the Knicks. I don't understand that. We'll get to the Knicks shortly. So Minnesota, They re-signed Luke Garza, and then their additions, they added Dante DiVincenzo. I think that's huge for them. They needed some help with shooting. PJ Dozier, Joe Ingles. I think Joe has not looked the same since the last knee injury. And then they added Julius Randle. Key departures: Kyle Anderson, McLaughlin, Wendell Moore Jr., Monte Morris, who was with the Suns, and then obviously Karl Anthony Towns. I don't see Karl. I don't know. I just can't see Cat playing well for Tibb. If you don't play defense, you don't play for Coach Tibb. And so I think the moment that he slacks on defense, which he does play defense, but not to the level that you would hope for a big man, I think eventually he'll get benched. So we'll see. New Orleans with the Pelicans, they re-signed Jose Alvarado, GTA. I think you've got to keep him. Nobody plays defense like Jose Alvarado. Your additions: Jamal Cain, Javonte Green, DeJounte Murray. That's huge. You needed a point guard. Ever since you lost Lonzo, you've had no clear direction at the one. CJ's great, but I think you have him come off the bench. And then Daniel Theis, I think that was huge for them too. Key departures: Dyson Daniels, EJ Little, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance Jr., Valanciunas, who will be playing for the Wizards. So that is going to be huge for them. And then Cody Zeller as well. So they're going to have some issues at the center position there. Now with the Knicks, they were able to re-sign OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Jacob Toppin, and their additions: Mikal Bridges. I think that'll be huge for them. Bates Diop, that'll be big too. Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, Karl Anthony Towns. Key departures: Bogdanovich, Burks, DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein, who was big for them during the playoffs, and then Shake Milton and Julius Randle. Now sliding over to OKC, they were able to re-sign Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. Their additions, they added Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. And then key departures: Josh Giddey, Gordon Hayward, who retired, and then Lindy Waters III. Now sliding over to Orlando Magic. They re-signed Franz Wagner, his brother, Jonathan Isaac, and Gary Harris. So then their additions, they added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Corey Joseph. And then key departures, they lost Joe Ingles. Now with the Sixers, they're going to look a little different this year too. Joel Embiid was extended. Kyle Lowry will be with them. KJ Martin will be with them. Tyrese Maxey got an extension. Kelly Oubre got an extension. And then they also added Andre Drummond, Paul George, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Caleb Martin. So huge additions for the Sixers. Now some key departures: Mo Bamba, Nicholas Batum, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Cam Payne, and Paul Reed. Now going to the Suns, they re-signed Bol, Damian Lee, Okogie, and then Royce O'Neal as well. Key additions: Tyus Jones, and then EJ Little, Monte Morris, and Mason Plumlee. Key departures: Drew Eubanks, Eric Gordon, and David Roddy. Now Portland, they didn't re-sign anybody. And their additions: Devontae Graham. Key departures: Malcolm Brogdon. Now going to Sacramento, they were able to re-sign Lynn and Malik Monk. I think Malik Monk is one of the most underrated players. LA should have definitely held on to him. And then they added DeMar DeRozan, Jalen McDaniels, Jordan McLaughlin, and Orlando Robinson. Key departures: Harrison Barnes, Chris Durante, Davion Mitchell, and then that was it for them. Now sliding over to the Spurs, they were able to re-sign Basie, and then additions: Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul. Key departures: Devontae Graham and Barlow. I don't think that those are huge losses, honestly. And I think that Chris Paul will bring type of veteran leadership that he could probably teach everybody on that roster how to be a professional. For those moments when Pop has he has other people that he's focusing on, you're still going to have another coach and one of your top players. So not that I expect us to win anything because we got Chris Paul in one of his last years of his career, but I do think that he can bring veteran leadership that is irreplaceable. Toronto Raptors, they re-signed Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and Garrett Temple. They did add Davion Mitchell, key departures, Jalen McDaniels, Gary Trent Jr. That'll be a huge loss for them. Now sliding over to Utah, they were able to re-sign Laurie Markkinen for 5 years. They added Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, key departures, Chris Dunn, Russell Westbrook, who never played for them. He was waived. Now sliding over to Washington, they were able to re-sign Gill and Holmes. They had added Sadiq Bey, Malcolm Brogdon, and Valanciunas. Key departures, Tyus Jones and Landry Shamet. So that does it for us on the NBA, what we can expect out of the changes on some of the rosters this year. Don't forget, we also have WNBA games going on right now. The semis and the playoffs are going on. You got New York versus Vegas, and then you got the Connecticut Sun versus the Minnesota Lynx. Connecticut Sun was able to steal game 1 on the road. So we'll see how that's going to play out. And it looks like Vegas is struggling against New York. New York has looked like the strongest team all season long. So we will see how the WNBA playoffs go. But it's been a pretty exciting season so far.
Agree.
Carrie, you have anything to add?
No, I'm just interested to see how some of these teams shape up with the additions and subtractions, because I don't know about you, that's kind of always an interesting, you see it on paper.
That's funny that you say that, Anthony. Nobody's tripping on the Spurs. I don't think we're winning anything, but I think we can make the playoffs. I don't think that we win our first round. Still an incredibly young team, like I said. So I don't think we don't need CP3 to be who he was 10 years ago. We just need him to come on and then next year jump on the coaching staff.
There you go.
But I did like Wemby's quote. He said the expectation last year was to learn, and the expectation for this season is to win. I think we win key games. I don't think we're winning a series in the playoffs or anything like that. But we're going to keep some people from going to the playoffs. We're going to win some key games. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in today, commenting, sharing. There's been a ton of you guys today, so we really appreciate that. It was a little bit of a longer show, but we will see y'all next week. Same time, same place.
Bye, y'all.